My name's Barbara, but I like to be known as Tunga. I was born in Jamaica, a little country place called Mackney, near Kellett's in St Anne's. And I spend a lot of my time in caring for my mother in Easton, but we live in Bristol. I live in a different part of Bristol, but she lives in Easton. My parents came to England. My father came before I was born. My mother came a few months after I was born. And I spent my early years living with my grandparents. Well, in my household, I'm told, was my father's father, my grandfather, and my father's mother, grandmother, and my older sister, my older brother, and me. I don't think there was anyone else there. My older sister would have been probably 5 years difference between my older sister, and a year's difference between my brother. I say we lived on a farm. Yeah, that's the one I can remember being my household at that time. So that was quite a different experience, the youngest one in Jamaica. When I came to England, I didn't know anything about my family in England at all. Nobody had actually told me as a young person. They forgot to tell me that I was going to go to England. So I remember being put on a plane. I can't remember being told anything at all about the journey before coming to England. All I can remember, I think I got vague memory being on the plane, but I think that's because, well, that's a memory that's been told to me that I've taken on, or that's my memory of being on the plane. But my first clear memory is being in an airport with my sister. We both had little blue suits on. My sister had a dark blue suit on, I had a light blue suit on. I don't know where my brother was at that time. There wasn't any adults around. I think because there wasn't any adults that could fly with us, my grandfather had found somebody to fly with us there. As I said, I can only remember, all I can remember is the colours changed to a grey. Everything was grey when I arrived, and other than the colour of our clothes that we were wearing, everything else around was grey. I can't remember an adult being there, and it was a sense of confusion, and I was really annoyed because somebody took my ice cream away from me, and then I'm thinking I'm really confused now. I'm really not happy now because somebody's taken my ice cream away from me. And then, I remember the airport, and then I remember kind of frozen memory of coming to the house, and then meeting my mum, who I didn't realise was my mother at that time, but and she'd give me something to eat. I don't think she was any verbal welcomes, that I put in my head afterwards that I would have thought, your mother would welcome you. She gave me something to eat, which was cornflakes, I think it was, and I didn't like the taste of it, so I went somewhere and spat it out underneath the lino that was in the house. But all I remember is that there was two heads sticking over the banister, which was my twin brothers, but I didn't know my twin brothers. I only realised they were brothers at the time. And I can't remember where my older sister and my older brother were at this particular stage, but the memories of the woman that was called my mother sat in the side, and the two boys who were called my brother sticking their heads over the banister, wondering who this person was as well. So that's my memories of arriving at the house, and again colour changing. Really, it was 60s, late 60s. So there was lots of greys and not very bright anyway. It wasn't very bright colours around. It's just so there was this transition of being a very bright, vibrant, free place to a confusing place that then moved on to a scary, bewildering place, because there was also these houses as well. I remember walking down the road and seeing all these, walking down roads seen far, even though I was used to running up down hills and that was openness and freeness. I'm walking down the road and turning around the corner and feeling totally lost and confused because it was a different place and everything looked the same. There was no different trees to landmark different places. It was like all the streets looked the same. Yeah, even though I was with an adult at that time. But so there's confusion, and I remember feeling easily disorientated at that time because nobody was explaining anything to me because of my age, and I think I had to figure it all out about what was going on, why it was going on. If they did, I can't remember what was going on or why I was here, but all of a sudden I was in this place. the darkness and greyness of the 60s, and I had to go to school and see these different coloured people, and it was strange memories for a young person, a little person. I think there's a lot of things that I don't remember, whether that was like lots of things shutting down about that time. My memory of that time is really poor. I know that back in the day it was, children should be seen and not heard, and you don't ask questions, you were just told. And I think that I must have had enough messages to say, don't ask the question because you're not going to get the answer. This is just how it is. And I think I was just aware that my parents were under a lot of pressure at that time to manage and cope. I became aware that the pressure of them saving up to bring us over from Jamaica, that was a financial pressure and financial hardship. And they'd gone through, I found out since then, lots of hardships around that process. And the pressure of working here, them both having to work jobs, as soon as one came in the door, the other one went out. Yeah, so I can't remember a specific time it was told. It's just, everything just merged into, well, this is just how it is then. This is the new family. This is just how it is for me. And this is how I'm fitting into these new people. And this is how I'm fitting into these, school and, all these new places, really. I think I've just had to do a lot of figuring out for myself, really. Like assumptions that you just say, you just should know and work it out. And that's my early memories. I can remember one strong memory. So we were born in the country up a hill. And I can remember, because one part of my family, my mother's family, was up the top of the hill. My father's family were down the bottom of the hill. And I can remember the freedom of a young child, or being given the freedom to sort of run up and down hill and gully, countryside, just being given the freedom to do that. And a sense of happiness, a sense of colour, a sense of sunshine. Yeah, a sense of caring adults around me before I came. I can't remember, I think that age your world is really around yourself. I can vaguely remember my older brother and sister in Jamaica and what they were doing, because I think they had tasks to do because they're older, and I was still young enough not to really have any tasks. But I can just remember freedom, colour around me of nature and sunshine, and I can remember caringness of relatives and people that I can turn to, either up the hill or down the hill, really. So that was quite a nice memory. My memories of my grandparents, I think I just accepted that they weren't there anymore, just as I accepted I was in another country. And it was almost like my identity changed at the same time, because my grandparents used to call me Tunga. And nobody explained to me why they used to call me Tunga. That was what they used to call me, and it kind of meant I was quick, I was fast. Little child. Now I know it means, strong woman. But when I came over to England, I was called Barbara. People started calling me Barbara, so that was another thing. I don't think I processed that well, but I just accepted you're now a different person, things have changed. So I don't, in terms of missing them or a loss, I think my dad used to talk about them because it was his parents that I lived with. And he had very strong, fond memories of his mum, and I kind of lived through his memories, that connection at that time, really, until they passed away. I never got to see them again, no, not while they were alive, my grandparents or their parents. So that was that ended that connection. Looking back now, I suppose it was good that I was reunited with my parents, and I kind of imagine now what it would have been like if I was still in Jamaica. Because my dad, I didn't realise until I was about a late teenager that my dad had another daughter in Jamaica. We didn't know anything about her at all, and I'm thinking that she was left in Jamaica. And I'm thinking that, and when I've gone back and I've seen cousins and things, and I think of the life that they have and the life I have now. So looking back, I can see it as a positive. Because we came from country, relatively poverty, relative isolation, that the best and the worst, the worst is the fact that becoming minoritised, you shrink a bit. You shrink coming to this country. You're not as big as you were in Jamaica, as I was in Jamaica. The colonialised mentality of Jamaica, as when I went back, it was still there, just as my parents brought over the colonialised mentality to here, which we took on to a degree, because when we came over, it was like, oh, you're in England now, talk Jamaican. You're in England, stop talk Jamaican now, you talk English, was the cry. So, and then we had to kind of live up to, because I think it was like they saw the English ones that were born over here, they're kind of seen as, they're better because they're born in England. Whereas, especially boys as well, because there's a whole thing about boys being preference to boys as opposed to girls, that whole mentality. So, yeah, you can weigh it up. There's pros and cons, yeah. When I first met the family in England, which was my younger twin brothers, I don't know, they were just younger twin brothers, really, no big deal. My youngest sister came along later on, but it was a household where boys were treated much better than girls. It was obvious. It's like that from a young age, we girls, we cooked, we cleaned, we washed, we did all those things. And like, even I remember things like, you have to serve your brothers and food first before you did. That was a big thing that I didn't get that at all. I just didn't understand that, really. And boys could have what they want. They can go out and play. They can run up and down. They can, whereas girls, you had to have a much more restricted life than they did. So there was a big preference, and the whole mentality that boys are much preferred more coming from Jamaica more than girls. So we as siblings got on really well and still do get on really well, but that was just an external thing that I was constantly aware of. That was, I think, when we were all a family, because of the age range, we were only in the household for a short period of time, all of us together in the household for a short period of time before the older ones left. So it's things like Christmases, Easter, those big occasions in those days where, it's food, it was extended family, it was those kind of, that whole dressing things up, but the whole anticipation and preparation for those big celebration days, not so much birthdays, but yeah, those big celebration times of the year was the things that we enjoyed as a family before we all went to our different ways. I think moving to this country, I think I see that differently from family, although you can't separate it because our families were separate because of that big move. But the disruption in your relationship with your parents, and I think especially because mine was a young age, I didn't know my parents from a young age, and the bigger connection was probably made with my grandparents, because there's a sense of them, those caring times being with my grandparents. So that disruption, because of how parents had to leave their children and couldn't bring them at that time, and my dad came first, my mother came second, and then we came afterwards. And then when we came over, there was extended family here, so it was just broken up that way. So we navigated, we got around it, we managed it. But I think it affects the fact that we all live our lives differently. The ones that are born over here, they probably see themselves as English. The ones that are born in Jamaica, we see us as Jamaican. So that kind of that's a barrier. And I think it breaks the connection to the fact that we're all of African heritage. That connection was broken a long time. What's good is, I suppose, we have been able to appreciate both worlds, what it's like being in England and a bit of what it's like in Jamaica, really. So we've got both worlds, although we've got connections with family like in America and Europe as well. So, it's just the wider extent of family as well. But I think it's also made us, not even just the immediate family, but made us enjoy our connections no matter where we are in the world more so, and for that not to divide us. We do what we can to stay connected in that way. I know that for a long time I was, because I worked on it for years, the relationship with my mother. My dad died when I was a lot younger, so because there was never really that strong connection with my mother, and because of her experiences with us being in England and how hard it was for her in coming over here, and how she viewed, say, the ones born in Jamaica and the ones born over here. So that's probably the biggest ongoing thing that's gone through to adulthood over the years.